You're a student of history, fan of Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast.
Yeah, it's great.
Greatest podcast ever.
Yeah, I think it is actually.
It almost doesn't really count as a podcast.
Yeah, it's more like a audiobook.
Yeah. So you were on the podcast with Dan. I just had a chat with him about it. He said you guys went military and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's literally. It was basically. I think it should be titled "Engineer Wars." Essentially, like when there's a rapid change in the rate of technology, then engineering plays a pivotal role in victory and battle.
How far back in history did you go? Did you go World War II?
It was mostly it was supposed to be a deep dive on fighters and bomber technology in World War II, but that ended up being more wide ranging than that. Yeah. Because I just went down a total rat hole of like studying all of the fighters and bombers of World War II and like the constant rock paper scissors game that, like, you know, one country would make this plane, then it'd make a plane to beat that, and that try to make a plane to beat that, and then and really what matters is like the pace of innovation, and also access to high quality fuel and raw materials. So, like, Germany had like some amazing designs, but they couldn't make them because they couldn't get the raw materials, and they had a real problem with oil and fuel. Basically, the fuel quality was extremely variable.
So the design wasn't the bottleneck. It was
like the U.S. had kick-ass fuel that was like very consistent. Like the problem is if you make a very high performance aircraft engine, in order to make it high performance, you have to the fuel, the aviation gas, has to be a consistent mixture, and it has to have a high octane. Like high octane is the most important thing, but also can't have like impurities and stuff because you'll foul up the engine. And Germany just never had good access to oil. Like they tried to get it by invading the Caucasus, but that didn't work too well.
That never works well.
Didn't work out for them.
See you, Joe.
Nice to meet you. So Germany was always struggling with basically shitty oil, and so then they could not, they couldn't count on high quality fuel for their aircraft. So then they had to have all these additives and stuff. Whereas the U.S. had awesome fuel, and they provided that to Britain as well. So that allowed the British and the Americans to design aircraft engines that were super high performance, better than anything else in the world. Germany could design the engines, they just didn't have the fuel, and then also the quality of the aluminum alloys that they were getting was also not that great, and so
Is this like you talked about all this with Dan?
Yeah,
awesome.